All right, so episodes 5 and 6 of The Last Dance. Here are my takeaways. Number one is the topic around sneakers, and I'm glad they spent some time talking about sneakers. So coming out of Carolina, I knew that Mike wanted to sign with Adidas. I've heard that story for a while. That I knew. But what I wasn't aware of was like the situation around how he at least went to go listen to Nike's pitch. Right? It was his mother, we found out. It was Miss Dolores. She was the one who convinced him to go listen to Nike. And of course, they ended up offering him double what Adidas was offering, so he took that deal. So the reason Nike is as big as it is thanks in part to Miss Dolores, right? She pushed her son enough to go listen to the deal, and here we are, and the rest is history. When they were talking about sneakers, I thought Sonny Vaccaro should have been a part of that, if you know who that is. I thought he should have been a part of that whole Jordan-Nike story. But what also something confused me with the whole, sneaker section. It was, they flashed Justin Timberlake, right? And this is no knock on Justin Timberlake, but I didn't understand why he was. I don't understand his purpose in that whole section about sneakers. His sole contribution was the fact that he said he mowed lawns and did chores around the house so that he could save up and wait in line at Foot Locker to buy some sneakers. I could have done without that. Thank you, Justin, but I could have done without that. See, they had other celebrities. They had Nas, and that part made sense because Nas was talking about cultural impact of sneakers. I didn't quite get the Justin Timberlake angle. I rewatched it a couple times. I still don't get it. The next thing that jumped out to me was Isaiah's exclusion from the Dream Team. So all we've ever known about that was that Mike directly impacted or negated Isaiah's membership on the team. But Mike says no. Mike said that he never mentioned Isaiah by name. This whole thing is almost like an urban legend that we're never going to get the true answer for, because no one has ever come out and said, yes, I specifically said to Chuck Daly or whoever, I do not want to play on this team if Isaiah's on this team. That's what I always was, I always thought to believe that Mike said that, but Mike said no. And Mike also said that he didn't think Isaiah was going to be a good fit because he had beef with Scottie, he had beef with Larry, he had beef with Magic. That's a real, almost soft stance to take. And I'm kind of surprised Mike said that, because I feel Mike is as hard-nosed of a competitor as we've ever seen. So you think that he'd be able to handle somebody who he has beef with potentially, especially if you're the best player on the team, the best player in the world. I figure you want him on the team and you want to make that work, but that's not the case. Mike said he had nothing to do with Isaiah not making the team, so I guess we'll never know. The next thing that jumped out to me was the topic around, Mike and his activism or lack thereof. Now, one of the biggest knocks on him is that he has been laser focused on his celebrity, the potentially just, putting the bottom line ahead of what's happening in the world. And they talked about, that race in North Carolina where he mentioned that he was not necessarily publicly backing the Democratic nominee because he said, quote, Republicans wear sneakers too. Now, I've heard that quote for a while, but to Mike's defense, he says that he said that on a bus he was joking to Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen. He didn't know that there was a microphone nearby, so he was joking about it. So I'll give him that. That's fine. You were joking about that. That's cool. But what he said was, and I actually took note of it. I actually want to repeat him. I want to quote what he said. He said, as it relates to activism or lack thereof, quote, I never thought of myself as an activist. I thought of myself as a basketball player. That's end quote. And he said that very unapologetically. He was almost like, listen, if you want to rally behind somebody who stands for that, I'm not your guy. I'm like paraphrasing. He said something very close to that. I'm not that guy. I'm not that dude. He said he tips his hat to Muhammad Ali for all that he did, but he's just not that guy. So that's the one knock on him back then, and that's still the knock on him today. Even with social media and people being more vocal, he's still not necessarily, coming to the forefront for any cause. He'll throw some money at it, but he's not really necessarily going to say anything about it. At this point, Mike is 50 some odd years old in 2020. That's what he is, and he was unapologetic about it, and his stance hasn't changed. So, you know what? This documentary was the most humanized thing I've ever seen Mike do. And that unapologetic stance was real. It is what it is. Take it or leave it. And the last thing that jumped out to me was, so when I did the video last week talking about episodes 3 and 4, I said I needed some more Toni Kukoc. So we got a little bit of Toni, but I still feel like what they showed of Toni in episodes 5 and 6 with the Dream Team and you know, Mike and Scotty going at him against Croatia in the championship game and you know, in the first round as well. Like, that's cool, but that's not the Toni story. I'm hoping in these last 4 episodes we got more Toni, because listen, if for some reason they want to shortchange my man Toni, I'm calling shenanigans, man.